I just want to take a quick moment out of the episode to personally invite you to join me at the next Recover Your Soul free Zoom support group. We meet the first Monday of every month from 6 to 7 p.m. Mountain Time. We talk about something in the Recover Your Soul process. I answer questions, and then we break into small groups for connection. You can register on the website, recoveryoursoul.net. And if you've registered in the past, be on the lookout in your promotions folder for that reminder email with the link. I hope you'll join us. It's completely normal and actually appropriate to have feelings of discomfort and worry when we watch the people around us make choices that are difficult, complicated, and that you can see are going to make it harder for them down the road, whether it's a sister, a brother, a coworker, a friend, and especially when it's your own child. Today we're talking about children, mostly adult children, but it can actually relate to anybody in your life that you're watching. Because we love people. We want to see them have lives that have safety, that have security. But what if they're here to have their own wild ride? How can we trust and allow acceptance as a path to peace is our theme for this year. So today we're going to talk about how you can be present in your own spiritual journey and experience and not allow yourself to worry about everyone else in their life, trusting their own soul's journey. Enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Recover Your Soul podcast and community, a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life. My name is Reverend Rachel Harrison. I started Recover Your Soul after having profound changes in my life from my recovery of alcoholism, codependency, people-pleasing, and control addiction. I was guided to share the tools and principles of spirituality and the Recover Your Soul process to help others transform their lives as mine was transformed. For us to overcome external circumstances, we need to turn the attention to ourselves, focusing on our inner change and healing. Positive results in our lives will follow. Welcome to the Recovery Soul podcast. I'm Rev Rachel. Thank you so much for being here with me today. You know, this is so much more than just this podcast. It's a community. And what I recognize that when I go out into the world and I start having conversations with people, you know, you wonder if you have something to connect with, and maybe you meet them someplace where you wouldn't think that you have connection. I've been finding I have connection with almost everybody, no matter what. And part of that is just this human experience, and especially people who have adult children. And because I'm at the age at 56 years old, where my kids are now 27 and almost 30 years old, I have a grandbaby who's about 16 months old. You know, I'm in this particular stage of life where we're talking and connecting to people who have adult children. And those conversations usually boil down almost immediately to talking about them worrying about their adult kids. And I am so grateful that there is something that we can connect on and talk about and relate to, because worrying about the people in our lives has been the way that we've existed for a very long time because we care about people. Worry is not necessarily a bad thing. Worry is an emotion around wanting some sort of certainty, wanting to understand, wanting to help, wanting to get them what's the word I'm looking for? Solid stability. That's the word I'm looking for. Some solid stability. And the world is very unstable right now. And so when I talk to people out in the world, it reflects the conversations that I'm having within the Recover Your Soul community. And I think that the reason why people are drawn to continue to come to this community is because we're talking about all the different facets, all the different aspects of this spiritual path, which include the very human, very real, very life experiences that we are having that are complicated and very difficult sometimes to watch, the challenges that people are in, the challenges that we're facing for ourselves. And this conversation that I'm interested in, which is our soul's journey, to be curious about this part of us that actually is beyond what we are experiencing here, but is part of and leading and interested in it. And also this part of this evolution into being willing to be present in our experience in a way that we've never done before. And so as I've changed and elevated my perceptions and my consciousness, my conversations have changed both within myself and here with you. And sometimes I worry, in all honesty, that I'm leaving out some people or turning off some people who might have come because of traditional 12-step, maybe Al-Anon or AA, or some of my older videos where I was still really in my process of just trying to wrap my head around what felt so unmanageable in my life, because there was so much that felt unmanageable in my life. And so I don't want to turn anybody off who's in that space. I want you to know I get you. I get you so much. It's making me want to cry. Because when you're watching your adult children or your children who are younger, teenagers, become their own selves and make choices and decisions that feel very counterintuitive to what you feel like you're teaching or what you want for them, our number one way to start to get them back on the track is to, connect and crunch in and try to manage and control and save and fix and help because we love them. And yet, the more that I do this work and the sort of more I become connected to my higher power of my understanding, and this concept of souls, this concept of Earth School. And if you're interested in what I have to say, you're going to be interested in these topics. And if they don't appeal to you, take what you need and leave the rest. This is no belief that there is only one path or that something's right and something else is wrong. It's really us opening up to seeing in a way that is completely different, potentially, than we ever thought before. I'm going to put a pin in where I was, and I'm going to speak to, I recently had a retreat, and the retreats they're intimate, they're powerful, they're deep. Some people go to retreats for rejuvenation and meditation, and I think those are fabulous and self-care and so important. The retreats that we do are deep, and they get in there and they move things around and they look at those patterns, beliefs, and stories that are in your subconscious that we got from childhood, that we were given from our culture, from our societies. And so much of what we're working on right now is these deep-seated beliefs that were handed down about how to be a good person, how to be a spiritual, a religious person, how to be a godly person. And there's so much fear behind that because we are looking for some straight line that's going to get us to certainty. That's going to get us to that stability that will give us the good life, the safe life. But we're being drawn to be different. And so when you are in these situations where people are so bravely, so incredibly courageously willing to come into community and talk openly, honestly, vulnerably about these parts of themselves in witness with other people, what we start to recognize is that we've been playing good girl, good boy, compliant good boy, good girl our entire lives. And then we want to create children who are going to do the same because it's the safe and narrow path to walk, right? It's this like straight line. If you want to get from one place to the other, don't veer off the trail. Just go straight there. Don't stop at anything interesting. Just stop at the gas stations, get your gas, and keep going. Well, I think that's kind of what was given to us for a period of time, especially after the World Wars and getting our society kind of back in line that felt very safe and very compliant. But we're spiritual beings. We're here on this wild ride. Our souls came here to have this incredibly rich experience and for it to not stay the same. Buddhism teaches us that there is always change, that this is actually the element of the beauty of the creation process. And if you think about just in our lifetimes, how much has changed, how much has shifted and grown. And sometimes people will say, well, I don't really like this. I liked it better before we had technology, or I liked it better when it was so simple. And there are some aspects to that we need to stay in touch with: connection with human beings, not being reliant on technology, not turning ourselves over to the scroll where people are feeding into us what we should think and feel and believe. There are some very important parts to that. However, the movement that we've had in this course of transition is also opening us up in consciousness and in ideas and in concepts and in perceptions that are completely different than anything we've ever experienced or thought together as a society, as a human collective. And I believe so strongly that the children who are coming into our lives are part of that change. And so there's a lot of kids out there, adult kids, who from the very time that they were children were not compliant to the good girl, good boy rules. And they have continued to sort of struggle and have these life situations that don't fit the mold. And there's a lot of parents who are saying, yeah, but I would have never spoken against my parents. I would have never not finished school. I would have never left that job because I was doing what was expected of me. And why won't they do what's expected? And so then we worry that they are not going to be okay. Well, I think that one of the things that is important for us to recognize is every time we have a judgment on somebody else and someone else's situation, the truth is we're having an experience within ourselves around our own feelings of fear, our own feelings around what that feels like to us. We're being touched on our own value systems. And I'm not saying that some pretty complicated, difficult situations are not happening for those people that we love in our lives. I work with people who have children who are mentally not able. I'm going to take this back. I'm going to re-say that. I have children who we perceive are not well, that we perceive are not well from this old standard, which says it should look like this. Now, are they experiencing something here that's very complicated? Absolutely. Do they meet up with the world in a way that people have expectations? No, they do not. But we're looking in spirituality about how to change our perception, how we choose to see it. And so in those experiences that their souls are having, they're having situations, not able to keep jobs, not able to keep housing, having complicated relationships. And it is incredibly painful and difficult to watch those situations. So what do? We worry and we jump in and we have all these ideas about how we think they should do it different. And we tell them how they should do it different. And we give them advice. And when we talk to them, we don't ask them how they are. We ask them, have they done this? Have you done this? Have you done this? Have you done that? And in the work that I do with both individually and in groups, I have something called a soul circle that is for parents of adult children, where we use the Recover Your Soul process on ourselves, the foundation of ourselves. And we have all in common these adult children that we're working with. And one of the things that we so much amazing connection comes in this group. We meet twice a month on Zoom. Some of the things that people say are so beautiful. And a couple of things that are coming to me is, one is the discomfort that we feel in their discomfort is what we're trying to solve. So yes, we love that person. And you've heard me say before that my motto used to be, when I heard the words, you can only be as happy as your least happy child. And I had an unhappy child. And so I, in turn, was unhappy. And I couldn't believe that I could be happier because I believed it was my job, my responsibility to fix and change and solve the problems for this child who was having a experience in his life and in his body that was complicated, incredibly complicated. And we labeled him the problem in the family. And we put all of our energy on fixing him. And when we had conversations, my husband and I, we fought over how to fix this broken child. And you know what he was doing? He was just trying to figure out how to be in his body. And he was trying to figure out how, it's emotional to think about how this incredibly sensitive human being, this incredibly sensitive soul, came into his existence and could feel things in ways that he knew what was going on aside from what was being talked about. And he responded and reacted differently to the world than some other children may have from a very, very early age.
But instead of us championing him for that, he was labeled in the schools and by us as broken. And he was labeled with ADHD, and he was labeled with depression and anxiety. He was labeled with these things, which were really the responses that he had to how he lived in his body. And then he and his dad had a very complicated relationship because of this. How do we fix? How do we change? How do we make it better? And that his responses, his natural responses in his soul and in his body to whatever it was that he was feeling were deemed as bad and wrong. How does that make somebody feel? If you're being labeled the black sheep, the bad one, the hard one, you're creating an entire system within you that is validating a brokenness that you potentially feel within yourself. We have been labeling people as broken. And I think what's happening in spirituality and in the shift that's happening in our consciousness, we're recognizing no one is broken. We're remembering that we are actually all whole, because as souls, as eternal beings, as essences of spirit itself, there is only wholeness. The experiences in which we're experiencing are legitimately complicated and difficult. And the choices that we make, every single choice that we make, every single choice that we make will have an experiential consequence. Those consequences are what our souls are here to have. And I know that for me, and for so many people that I work with, or they're in my groups or in the community, say, Rachel, this is what's changed it for me. That when I look at my kids, and this is not religious, you can please have whatever your religious outlook is that brings you wholeness in your heart, that brings you closer to a connection to something greater still. All religions talk about souls. Now, what you think they are and what you think happens afterwards and what you think is, you get to have those relationships. But all spirituality and religions have a concept of a soul, an eternal essence of yourself that came from something greater still, that is loved, that is enough. Now, there's a lot of fear that gets put around what happens around it, and that's not our conversation today. But when you're in these human experiences, when you're in these relationships with your adult children and you're watching them have lives that are the response to how they feel in their body, they're making choices that are very outside of the lines that we used to make. We look and we're like, don't you care that you, A, don't have a car, or you're not in a relationship, or you're not keeping a job? And some of them care, and some of them are like, I'll figure it out. But we don't get it. We don't understand. But when we start looking at the soul experience within this embodiment, within this incarnation, within this lifetime, it helps us to actually let go of control, because we may be getting in the way of a soul's choices, experience that they're there to learn. We may be actually hijacking their soul's full ride. Now, do we want them to have a full ride that is filled with addiction or filled with hardship or depression or anxiety? No, of course we don't want to. But when you label them as underperforming, as broken, as not well, as all the things that we label them as, you're actually putting a block in their potential to make different choices and to be okay with whatever their choices are. And most of the time, those choices that we make that are actually unhealthy are really protective. It's so strange that you would choose to do something that's so harmful to yourself that really is a protection of the woundedness and the brokenness that we feel within ourselves. I know when I was drinking myself to death, I certainly didn't love myself in the way that I love myself now. No, I was trying to kill myself because I was so lost inside. And nobody made me stop drinking. Nobody made me turn to spirituality. I was 48 years old before I got sober. 48 years old. So here we have these adult children that are having an incredibly different, unique experience. in the world than we had, with bigger pressures, with more content, with more constant information, with more messaging, not of being enough, but of not being enough. And the beliefs and the stories that they've created for a long time within themselves around what that means. And this is their soul's journey to have. And so if we think about these worries that we have and the desire for it to be different for them, who is it harming? In the end, it harms us. In the end, we're the ones not sleeping at night. In the end, we're the ones filled with resentment, or we're the ones whose minds are going around and around and around with all the ideas and all the stories and all the ways that they could do their life different. And if they would just do this, and if they would just do that, if they would just, well, some of those things are true. Some of those things are absolutely true because you have an entire life's experience to see that when you show up in this kind of a way, it will have this kind of result. Well, how did you learn that? You learned that through your own mechanisms of feedback in your own life of what worked and what didn't work. Should we be giving our kids advice or our wisdom? Absolutely. They need that. They want that. But when we give it to them from a messaging that you can't do it for yourself, but I know the right way, you're telling them that they're broken. You're telling them that there's something wrong with them. And they're receiving that message not from a place of wholeness and empowerment and curiosity to what their experience is. They're actually receiving it from a place that says, I can't trust myself. I can't trust my own decisions. I can't trust my own way of being. Now, it's taken me years and years and years to continually, still to this day, I'm still working on my control issues, work with my adult children. And that son who we determined was the black sheep, the problem of the family, when I shifted, how I saw him and how I related to him and what I thought was mine to do. It's interesting. He shifted too. He shifted how he was in his own life. And it took him years. He moved away from us. He got out of under our eyes, our constant judgment around whether he was making a good choice or a bad choice. And he had to live with his own choices. And some of those choices weren't that great. But he was given permission to fall down without us watching him. Because we're entitled to fall down. Actually, falling down sometimes is the greatest way that we learn how to get up. So when he moved out of state and we weren't all over him all the time, it was a very uncomfortable couple of years, to be honest. I didn't know how to talk to him. I didn't know how to relate to him. And at one point, and I've said this before, but I think it's pertinent for this conversation, I was talking to him and asking him all those questions. Did you do this? Did you do that? Did you get that taken care of? And he said, Mom, can you stop doing that?
We'll be right back.
Recover Your Soul is so much more than just this podcast. It's a community, and it also is a 9-step process to healing and awakening. It offers a way to be in the world in a new way, letting go of old beliefs, old patterns, old systems through a spiritual path that brings you to your awakened wholeness, to be able to be present in very complicated situations and relationships. We're letting go of codependency and people-pleasing, and maybe even having people in our lives who are affected by addiction. We are learning how to be in a different way of being through these very sticky and complicated times. And if you're interested in joining me, you can come into the Recover Your Soul community in lots of different ways. There's the free once-a-month Recover Your Soul support group on Zoom the first Monday of every month. You can join the collective, which offers the 9 steps through self-study and then 2 teachings a month with me. We have soul circles that have parents of adult children who come together twice a month to connect and to have group coaching on how to be in this way with your adult kids. There are so many paths to your own wholeness. Whether you join me on retreat, do one-on-one coaching, whether you read the book, just listen to the podcast, you have everything that you need within you. And I just want to be a guide to help you along the way. You can get started by getting the free 9-step Recover Your Soul mini workbook, along with all the resources you need at recoveryoursoul.net.
Can't we just talk? And I said, what do we talk about? I was so used to being the person who kept him accountable, kept him on track, made sure he was marking all his things. And yet at the same time, he says, you never taught me how to actually fill out my taxes because you did it for me. Because I just wanted that check mark checked. In a way, I kept him from the capacity to learn how to do his own life because I wanted it to be easier for him. So what I interpreted that he couldn't handle, I did. And so now he's had to have some of the situations in his life where he's had to figure those things out. And if he wants help, he will come and he will say, hey, I'm not entirely sure how to do this. Can you help me with this? Well, he's asking. So when he asks, do you think he's more likely to receive that information and to follow through with that advice or that information? Absolutely, he is. Is he going to take it for sure? No. Am I obsessed with whether he follows anything that I have to offer? Not anymore. I used to be. Their discomfort was so uncomfortable to me. So in this group, in the soul circle, this concept of recognizing that our discomfort with their discomfort is really what we're trying to fix is such a beautiful awareness about what Recover Your Soul offers, which is, yes, we have these people in our lives, whether it's your adult children, your parents, your siblings, the people you work with, who are in their own experience, making their own choices. And some of those things reflect back to us and are not that enjoyable or great or easy to watch. And they actually have consequence to us as well. When we stop trying to control them and change their behavior and change what their perception is or what their life's journey is, what their soul's journey is, and we move into our own, we actually take our power back because we quit needing them to be a certain way for us to be okay. Now, letting your adult kids flounder, find their way, be completely unique, be in depression, be in anxiety, struggle, will never be easy because they're your children and you love them. And you're entitled to the feelings that come when you are in that witness. But if you can be just present with those feelings and recognize, wow, I would have never made that decision. That's not how I saw the world when I was growing up. There's an opportunity sometimes for us to look at our unconscious, subconscious belief systems that might actually need healing within ourselves. To really see the places where we're coming from love and a place that might be attached to fear underneath that is still running a tape of a fear mechanism. And often it's really the fear that is the worry versus us standing in a knowing and a trusting that regardless of the choices that are made, those experiences are what our souls came here to experience. And that was the other part from the soul circles is that people have really said this particular concept has helped them to see their children in their wholeness regardless of what their experiences are, because they can see and feel and know their soul's wholeness, even if their human experience is very complicated. When we stop seeing them as broken, as underachieving, as making wrong choices, and we hold a knowing within ourselves about how we want to show up in our lives, it actually gives more potential for light within them to shine because we're not dimming their light with our judgment. We're not dimming their choices with our judgment. And they might feel safer with you. And they might be more honest about really what's going on within them that has this potential to open up conversations and connections and wisdom exchange and curiosity and soul to soul interactions. Our children are our children forever and ever and ever, but they do not belong to us. And their experiences are their own experiences uniquely to have. And if we can witness each other's experience without trying to control, manage, manipulate, hold on to what we think they should be, we actually free them for their choices. And then we come back to ourselves. What are the choices that I'm making? How can I be more awake, more attuned to myself? What is my soul's journey? What am I learning here? If this is our connection with each other and we're each learning something from each other, sometimes they say the ones with the most challenge in our lives are our greatest teachers. That we have this capacity to actually be present with ourselves in a way that is teaching us how to release, let go, and be okay. I am now not as happy as my least happy child. And the good news is my children are actually doing great. Life continues to be lifey. They continue to have challenges. They have financial challenges. They have relationship challenges. They have work challenges. They have challenges in being human beings and being adults and how to be in the world and how to feel good about themselves and how to, trust themselves. Yeah, they have those experiences. You know why? Because they're human beings. But the more that I've let go of this belief that I'm supposed to save them from any difficulty, the more that I recognize I get to choose how I am in my body and how I can witness and be present in those situations and actually send them out into the world to take responsibility for their lives. You heard me say that, I only help them to the level of which they're helping themselves. And that's emotionally, financially, physically. And that doesn't mean that they're punished for not helping themselves, but it stops being this carrot. I used to give them money or give them gifts, wanting that to be some sort of way that it would help them to want to do better. But really, I was just backing up that belief that they couldn't do it for themselves or that they needed some sort of prize at the end to have the motivation to do it for themselves. I've let go as much of that as I possibly can, and they are self-supporting through their own contributions, which is the greatest gift that I can have. Do I help them out sometimes? Of course I do. Of course I do. Because we can be there for each other, but I am not saving them. They don't need saving. They've got it. And they're entitled to have a complicated experience. And they're entitled to make the choices in their life that don't align with the choices that I would make in mine. I can love them and hold them and see them and release them and trust their journey and trust that some of the most difficult consequences that they experience from their choices are part of their soul's experience that they are here to learn. That's the soul's hero's journey. And we're here to experience our soul's hero's journey. So if you love this work, and Recover Your Soul, and you want to learn more, or you want to be in a group of other people, of adult children, and really do this deep self-exploration and healing and awakening work, and learn how to be with your adult kids in different ways, there's a community for you. If it's not me, go find one that is. Go to an Al-Anon meeting. Go to whatever it is in your spiritual life, in your communities where you can get support, not to commiserate, not to blame, not to try to figure out how to fix the people around you, but how to witness, allow, open. This year's theme in Recover Your Soul is acceptance as a path to peace. And accepting your adult children and everyone in your life for who they are instead of wanting them to be somebody else is the path to peace. Acceptance is a path to peace. Always coming back to you. Thanks for trusting me. Thanks for being here. Honor yourself. These shifts in perception, just that tiny shift in perception, is a pretty big deal and pretty different from the modeling that we grew up with or might be around you. So be courageous and brave enough to step into this new way of being. Until next time, namaste.
If something that you just heard resonated with you, I want you to know there's a whole community waiting for you. The Recover Your Soul process is a spiritual path to a happy and healthy life, and there's many ways to walk it together. Start with the free mini workbook at recoveryoursoul.net. It's a beautiful first step. You can join us for the free monthly support group on the first Monday of every month. And if you're ready to go deeper and work the 9 steps, you can join the Self-Study Collective or a Soul Circle or come to one of our in-person retreats or workshops. And if you want to work with me personally, one-on-one, coaching is available. You can also find bonus episodes on Patreon, Apple Podcasts, and I'm on YouTube with new videos. And grab your copy of the new Recover Your Soul spiritual memoir. It is a spiritual journey of healing from addiction, codependency, and people-pleasing, available on Amazon, and it's our journey of healing through this process. You can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and all of it is Recover Your Soul. Just remember, you're not alone in this. Together, we can do the work that will recover your soul. The Recover Your Soul podcast courses and content is for educational purposes only and is not affiliated with or representative of any organization, recovery group, or religion, and reflect the personal experience and opinions of Rev. Rachel Harrison and her guests. Recover Your Soul claims no responsibility any person or entity for any loss, liability, damage caused or alleged to be caused, direct or indirectly, by the use, application, or interpretation of the information presented within. Take what you need and leave the rest.